Hey, welcome to Sparks. So, one of the previous Sparks I did was on what happens when you make a mistake and how you beat yourself up. I think the name of that one was called "I Don't Like What I See," and it's the idea that when you make a mistake, how do you respond? How do you treat yourself? Well, something happened this past couple of weeks that made me think that maybe I hadn't covered all that I wanted to talk about in that Spark, because there's also another dimension to that, not only when you make a mistake, but also what happens beforehand. You may get so nervous and scared that you don't want to make a mistake, and that can get you into trouble too. So I want to talk a little bit about that because it might really apply to you as well. But let me start with a story, as is often the case. So I got a friend, let's call him Joey. He's a young guy, teenager, and he wanted to go to a sports camp and was looking for ways to make money. And so we decided to work together and mow some lawns. And I would work with Joey, and he would mow the lawns and I would do the weed whacking. And we had this one customer who was really, really particular about her lawn. And she had, people come out and lay down sod more than once and lay down chemicals. And she spent a lot of time and a lot of energy, a lot of money trying to get her lawn just the way she likes it. And so this one time we're working and Joey's mowing the lawn, and I noticed that the woman is walking behind him, clipping what I thought were weeds. Turns out they were blades of grass, and apparently Joey had missed them, or the lawnmower didn't cut them right, and we were using the lady's lawnmower. So I didn't think anything of it, but it wasn't long before the woman approached me and said, "Hey, Joey's not doing the lawn the right way. He needs to learn to overlap his lane so that you're not going to have spots where you miss." And I've had to walk behind him and make sure he's doing it like he's supposed to. And I said, "Okay." A lot of thoughts ran through my head at that moment, but instead I said, "Well, all right, this is a good lesson for Joey, in that he's got to learn that if you take a job from someone and they're paying you, then you need to do it the way they like it, or don't take the job, right?" And we're gonna have I have bosses and coworkers and people that you got to work with that are hard to deal with, and you got to figure out a way how you're going to navigate that, how you're going to manage that. And so this was a good lesson for Joey too. And so we got the lawn finished, got paid, thanked the woman for the opportunity. The woman said he's a really nice guy. I said, "You're right, he is." And we left. And I could tell something was bothering Joey, and he wasn't saying anything. I think because he was wondering if he screwed up in some way. But I kept thinking about this idea of perfectionism, right? This woman was walking behind him, clipping individual blades of grass. That borders on a little, maybe the OCD, maybe a perfectionist. And the woman even said that to me at one point. She goes, "Look, I know this is hard because I'm a perfectionist." And I couldn't get that out of my head. So on the ride home, I'm thinking about perfectionism and what does that do, right? And how people can be so afraid to make a mistake, or it has to be a certain way in order for them to feel comfortable and relax or enjoy what they're doing. And then I started thinking about the story of Martha and Mary in the Bible. And I don't know if you know that story, but Martha and Mary were Lazarus' sister. And Lazarus is the guy who Jesus brought back from the dead. And you may know that story too. I'd encourage you to read it, both the story of Lazarus and the story of Martha and Mary. So what happens is Jesus comes to their house. And Mary's sitting at the foot of Jesus, and he's talking to her and he's teaching her. And Martha's running around cleaning the house and making food and trying to make sure Jesus as a guest is well taken care of. And a little bit of backdrop or history for you. You have to understand there's a context for this, right? That what Jesus was doing to Mary was almost unheard of, right? Back then, women weren't allowed to be educated. They weren't allowed to have jobs. Their job was to basically keep the house clean, have and raise children, and that's pretty much it. So for Jesus to take a minute and sit down and talk to her and teach her something is extraordinary. So is what Martha was doing, right? Martha was doing exactly what she was expected to do when a guest came into the house. You make sure the house is clean, you cook for them, you take care of whatever they need, right? She's doing it exactly according to the customs in which she was familiar. So there's nothing wrong with what she was doing, but at some point Martha gets frustrated because she's asking Mary for help, and Mary's saying, just kind of ignoring her. And finally she gets so frustrated, she turns to Jesus and says, hey, she's not helping me. Basically what she's trying to do is to get Jesus on her side to say to Mary, hey, go help him, right? Go help your sister and we'll figure this out later. And Jesus' response was really kind of interesting, because he was very gentle with Mary. He said, look, with Martha, he said, look, I know bugs are killing me out here. I know that you've got a lot on your mind. I know you're worried about a lot of things. I know this is a problem for you, but hey, listen, your sister's got the right idea, right? Don't worry about the dishes. Don't worry about the cooking and cleaning. Come sit with me. You may not get another chance to do this. You don't need to be OCD about this. You don't need to be a perfectionist about this. Chill, right? Calm down. Just come sit and talk. And Mary doesn't know what to do, right? She's like, but I'm supposed to be doing this other stuff. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been like Martha, where, you're so worried about making a mistake, or you're so worried about getting things just right that you sort of fall into that perfectionist trap? I mean, it's not every day the Messiah comes to your house, right? So it's a big deal to begin with. So it's perfectly okay to want to make sure that he's taken care of. It's perfectly okay for you to want to perform well, with excellence, and do a good job and go above and beyond and go the extra yard. Nothing wrong with that. But at an extreme, you start getting into this idea of perfectionism. And if I'm fair about it and honest about it, every one of us probably falls into that trap to some degree. I know I do. There are times when I think I just have to have certain things done a certain way. My office has to be clean in order for me to start working. There are times, here's a better one. There are times when I can't walk through my garage without getting anxious and starting to feel tense about all the things that my wife brings home from these yard sales that she goes to, and brings people's stuff home. Now, what you need to know is that my wife usually, almost always, is buying things for other people at these yard sales. But our lives are so crazy and chaotic that it could be months before we ever get to see those people and get that stuff out of the garage, or they come and get it, or whatever. So I'm being Martha a little bit here, right? I'm more worried about how clean my garage is, or how orderly my garage is, and I'm feeling anxious about that, when I'm failing to recognize that my wife is trying to minister to other people, right? By giving them the things that she thinks would bless them, or the things that they might need, or things like that. So we've got to be careful not to fall into that trap. And so I wonder if maybe your schoolwork or your projects, or you've had occasions where you have siblings and you have a task and you're supposed to share the work, and one sibling isn't doing it, right? You can really get frustrated doing it. Hey, basically this is supposed to be a joint effort and you're not pulling your weight. I get that, right? I totally understand that. And Jesus is also saying, hey, it's okay, but just make sure you have your priorities straight, because perfectionism is a really, really difficult thing. Once you sort of fall into it, it's hard to get out of it, right? Sometimes you don't realize you're doing it. But like the woman who has the lawn, she recognizes she's a perfectionist and can't stop, right? There's another spark that you might want to look at that we did a few weeks ago on addictions. Just in the same way, if you can't put your phone down, even for a day or a week or whatever, because our whole identity is sort of tied up in it, the same could be true with, I won't even try to do anything unless I can do it perfectly, or I'm going to get very frustrated with whatever I do because I'm trying to do it perfectly, right? So that's something to really think about. and to pray about, and wonder where the line is for you between doing things with excellence and doing things with a high standard for yourself, but not falling into that trap. Okay? So go give that some thought. We'll talk soon. Post a comment in the section if you think of something that you've done, or like I did. I realized later that I was being kind of a Martha with the garage thing, and it only occurred to me once I ran into this woman when we were working together with Joey. So you may have a moment of awareness that you didn't think about before too. Put it in the comments section and see if that can get a conversation going. All right, talk to you soon.